Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated.
Yang berbahagia, Professor Emeritus Datuk Dr. Ibrahim Ahmad Bajunit, President of Malaysian Society for Educational Administration and Management, MSIM. Yang berusaha, Dr. Sazali Yusof, Director Institute of Teacher Education, Tuanku Bainun Kampus. Yang berusaha, Encik Muhammad Saad bin Abbas, Deputy Director, Institute of Teacher Education, Tuanku Bainun Kampus. Directors, Institute of Teacher Education campuses, distinguished keynote speakers, special invitees, the Secretariat of IConFEd 2018, ladies and gentlemen, the participants and presenters of IConFEd 2018. On behalf of the organizers, we would like to extend our warmest welcome to all of you to the closing ceremony of the International Conference on the Future Education IConFEd 2018. We have finally come to the end of a 3-day conference, and we hope that it has been a great experience for everyone, as we are able to share and discover various researchers on future education, as well as meeting new friends from various countries, or to reconnect with old ones during the conference.
Ladies and gentlemen, to begin our ceremony this afternoon, we would like to invite Al-Fadil Ustaz Rahim bin Ramli to recite the prayer.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. قال الله تعالى: وأن المساجد لله فلا تدعوا مع الله أحدا. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أصبحنا وأصبح الملك لله والحمد لله لا شريك له، لا إله إلا هو، إليه النشور. اللهم إنا نسألك خير هذا اليوم، فتحه ونصره ونوره وبركته وهداه، ونعوذ بك من شر ما فيه وشر ما قبله وشر ما بعده. O Allah, we acknowledge that you are the true God of this great and wonderful universe. We acknowledge that you are giving countless blessings to us. Please forgive us if we fail to gratefully acknowledge your favor. O Allah, give us strength so that we can carry out the trust that you bestow upon us. O Allah, save the journey of all our officers, participants, and our guests. Make all the effort that we have put in this conference something that can weigh our righteous charity in the hereafter. Amin. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار والحمد لله رب العالمين.
Thank you, Al-Fadil Ustaz, for the dua recitation.
Ladies and gentlemen, to cap off IConFEd 2018, we are honored to invite Yang Berbahagia, Professor Emeritus Datuk Dr. Ibrahim Ahmad Bajunit, President of Malaysian Society for Educational Administration and Management, MSIM, to deliver his closing speech and further officiate the closing of IConFEd 2018. Please welcome Dato.
In the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful. This is the closing, but also a closing, not speech, but sharing. In life, over things we can control, there should be closure, and the ending of life should be as dignified, as important as the journey of life. We have to have this in our mind as our personal philosophy. As far as we can intervene in the lives of people and in our own lives, people should lead lives and the closure of life with dignity. That's a broad principle, but that principle must be applied to our control of events. You see, I would like to appreciate Dr. Sajali Yusuf, Dr. Saad Abbas, and their team, because they have done the very best they can in every little way. So in terms of event management, in terms of the details of what event managers, what secretariats should do, they have done and given of their very, very best. And we are world class. And we are beyond world class. You can compare us to equivalent kind of organizations and events will be equally good. But there are some things we have to understand. Malaysia is really a very, very great country. We have a very long history. ASEAN has very long history. Every one of the ASEAN nations, 11 of them, we have the UNESCO heritage sites. Recently, I was invited to present a paper at this conference on the heritage of Malay foods, Malay cuisine. And my children said, Baba, that's not your area. You know, you're not in this cooking, and you'll be with all the chefs. And how can you accept and present a paper on Malay cuisine at an international conference? So I told my children, I said, you know, I've been eating all my life. I have been to so many Malay restaurants, and I'm an educator. Does it mean that because of a paper qualification, you are disqualified? And I went. I knew what I wanted to say. It's really very simple. I was with the chefs. But it's very simple because I know Malay culture. It's always about culture and context. It's always about origins and sources. When you present your papers, whatever the papers, it's always about culture and context, origins and sources, etc. Okay. It was really very easy for me. You know, everywhere people say, what are the 10 places, 100 places you must go to before you die, etc. So, at the conference I asked, what are the 10 Malay foods you must eat before you die, before people die? And many of the chefs cannot answer that question. And then I asked another question. I said, you know, in Western culture, you have Western types of food, and they have wine, or they have other kinds of drinks. What drinks go together with what food? So I asked the Malay foods, what drinks go together with the Malay foods? The chefs were with me, and the people from the audience say, teh tarik. And I mentioned the next Malay food, they say teh tarik. Now, something's wrong with our culture and our experts. We focus on the foods, but we don't focus on the drinks. We don't focus on the drinks. So there are so many things in our culture which are right, but so many things which are not right. And our duty as scholars would be to identify what's not right, and then try to, in our papers as we present them, suggest solutions, and also the betterment, towards a betterment. You know, another joke I like to tell is, I think Malaysians will be able to send people into outer space quite easily. But we don't think to bring them back. We'll send them on a one-way trip. Because Malaysians are very good at thinking around problems. If you think around, we present all kinds of papers, we think around, but we do not think through. Thinking around is different from thinking through. So as we develop ourselves as researchers, as lecturers, as teachers, we have to think around problems, and we have to think through problems. And we have to understand the power of the question. When people, I said during the opening ceremony that, in fact, it was my last statement during the opening ceremony. I said the person who asked the question is should actually be more intelligent than the people who answer the questions. That's why when you do your doctorate, it is about the research problem. The research problem is about the significant and relevant questions. So the research problem is not just about your doctoral thesis. The research problem is also about every paper that we present. So I have congratulated our secretariat. I'd like to congratulate all the paper presenters. And for those of you, as you write your papers, somewhere in the framework of your minds and in the cumulative contributions in your career, you have all these questions you have been asking regarding life, regarding society, regarding your areas of specialization. But then you must always be careful about the unfinished business, the omissions, the neglect, the wrong assumptions. So Malaysia is really a great country. ASEAN countries are great countries. There are over 38 UNESCO heritage sites in ASEAN countries. Rather than waste our time doing funny things, why don't we plan as we go forward as intellectuals, as scholars, etc.? Why don't we plan to visit not just Greece or Rome, but those great civilizations in ASEAN, the 38. You see, the ASEAN civilizations, Angkor Wat, Borobudur, Ayutthaya, all these are equal to, or longer than, or better than European artifacts and the artifacts in other nations. Our region has been a civilized region, civilized at that particular point of time in so many different ways. So one of the things that we should ask ourselves as we go through our lives, have we been to all these very important sites in our own country? In Sabah, in Sarawak, in Kedah, Bujang Valley, Mulu Caves, and all the rest. And we dream of going elsewhere every year, but we do not understand our own country. We should understand our own country, and we should understand our own strengths and weaknesses. One strength, one weakness is we think around a problem, but we don't think through a problem. Another problem is we build infrastructure. We build great infrastructure, but we do not maintain them. Our maintenance culture is very poor. Our maintenance culture is very poor. Our maintenance culture is very poor. We write all kinds of papers, but we do not solve the problem of our maintenance culture. We have potholes all over the country. Our toilets are not well maintained. But then we have made progress. We have put the infrastructure and we have put the system in place, but we have not been able to educate our people to be like the Japanese with a mindset of continuous improvement every day. How can you make things better in your own homes, in the communities, in the family, in the nation? We have this long-standing problem of maintenance culture. Why? Okay, I made a statement towards the beginning. I said the closing of our life should be with dignity, and it should be equally good as the opening. In fact, closing addresses should be even better than opening addresses, because you have seen the 100 papers, because you have interacted with so many people. So the closing, we should have a culture of being present during the closing addresses, so that you can say goodbye to your friends, so that you're on the search for that special idea which may come true towards the end. So I'm repeating, end of life, end of conferences should be equally exciting, equally interesting. And there must be closure of some kind. So we cannot just build infrastructure and put in the system, and yet we cannot maintain to the best that we can. Now, I want to relate what I have said to the Secretariat. The Secretariat has done its very best in terms of the checklist of any event management function. They have done the best that they can. But we still have a problem. Typically in Malaysia, closing time, closing addresses, we will lose up to half of our participants. Now, what is the problem? The problem is the same as the toilet problem. You put in the infrastructure, you put in the system, but then it is the individuals, it's the participants. Now, we understand that there will be about 10% of the participants who go off because they have to go off. But as event managers, we have to begin to understand how can we attract people to stay until the end. That's the next step. So, next stage. By the way, I rehearse all this. I don't sleep at night. I practice. I know what I want to talk to you for days, even when we plan the program. So that's why I know what I'm talking about. I'm not holding any notes because I know what I'm talking about. Thank you for your feedback. So this is continuing, and thank you for staying. And to the keynote people, you know, they spend all their lives, and I would like to acknowledge those keynote presenters who are my friends, who have been together with me in many occasions. You see, they spend their life concentrating on their specializations. And they put together 40 years of experiences or more in half an hour or 1 hour. And they give us the opportunity to interact with them. We should develop the techniques of having those sets of questions, the sets of questions in our mind when we listen to the keynote presenters. And when they stay on until the end, we should be interacting with them with those searching questions so that our minds expand. The contents, the substance of our knowledge expand, and our thinking processes expand. So for the keynote presenters, thank you for being with us and making this conference a success. Now, for all others, what's the next level? You see, developed nations, high civilizations, are those civilizations who always ask, what's next? How can I do it better the next time? How can I do it differently? How can my paper incorporate what I have learned in this conference? I've spent so much money, I've spent so much time, I meet so many people, but how can I, during the next event, whether with Ms. Yam and Tuanku Bainun or somewhere else, how can I present a better paper, a deeper paper, a paper which will enable me to be richer and enable me to enrich other people? So what's next? In the scholarship world, what's next is actually, right now, it is multidisciplinarity and transdisciplinarity. How can we get out of the silos of our disciplines? How can we stretch out our tentacles, our intellectual tentacles, and go to the next level and be more multidisciplinary and more transdisciplinary, deeper and wider? These are exciting things, because every time that we come to a conference and present and listen to other people, we should take powerful ideas, and with those powerful ideas, we could go on. So, where's Tuan Haji? Rashid there for my Baki World thing. All right, okay. No, it's okay, it's all right. I wanted to show you something. After the keynote address here and the opening ceremony, I was up Penang Hill. Just imagine you're up Penang Hill. It's one of the most beautiful spots in Malaysia, and it's really one of the most beautiful spots in the world. On a hill, you look down at Georgetown, and there's a hotel there known as Bayview Hotel. For so many years, every year, scholars from different parts of the world come over to discuss what is very important. Is a philosopher. It's the work of one of the top American professors, Buckminster Fuller. Buckminster Fuller is one of the top American professors. He's the one, if you go to Komta, you go to Bangkok, you go to many places, he's the one who invented the dome, a special kind of dome. He invented so many things. But, you know, when we just focus on our country and our subject, we don't know about this other person. But he's one of the great thinkers and philosophers of mankind. And so people from different parts of the world who knew him would turn up, and we will interact very deeply to discuss his ideas, his thoughts, the relevance and significance of his thoughts from his discipline to all other disciplines. There is a person up there. He owns a hotel, Bayview. His name is Datuk Sri Lim Chong Kiat. He is the brother of the former Chief Minister of Penang. He was the one who built Komta. At that point of time when he built Komta, Komta is one of the tallest buildings in the world. There were no other taller buildings than Komta in Malaysia when he built it. He also built a similar thing he built mosques in Negeri Sembilan. He built the convention center in Singapore and elsewhere. But what is interesting is when you meet these people, they will be talking about their university days, and they will be telling you about all their visits to different museums of the world, the top museums of the world, the top libraries of the world, the top scholars of the world, whom they have met and interacted with over the years, personally. And that is known as intimate history. They'll tell you the details of their relationships. So we have been having this Baki World Conference in Bali, in Penang Hill and elsewhere, going deeper into the thoughts of a philosopher and of a scholar. Datuk Sri Lim Chong Kiat, he was the one who built the convention center and other buildings in Singapore, for which he got international acknowledgement. But there's something special about these people. Their background was architecture, but they talk about physics and chemistry. Their Japanese friends invented this water filter and is responsible for the cleaning up of rivers. And this Lim Chong Kiat, very interesting. He has established journals of botany, folia. So the interest is not just in architecture, and the achievement is not just in architecture, but it's about botany. He has found new species of bananas, of ginger, of many other things. And it's not just him. It's all these other people. And they talk history, they talk about the world wars, they talk about special wars everywhere, they talk about law and justice and the arts. And when you're there, you can feel you're ignorant because their knowledge is so wide, their understanding is so wide. And we become very narrow because we have been on the paper chase, diploma disease trail, and we only know our silo areas of specialization. I had a friend here who was in university science. I love her. She's from Sarawak. Because we stream our school system, she was the best student throughout, all the time. And then she became a professor here. Really fantastic, wonderful person. She later on went to UNESCO. And then she had the opportunity to go to Stanford. And she was living with the people in the hostel in Stanford. And she told me, and I wrote about her in my column, the re-education of Dr. So-and-so. Because she said she only knew science, she never understood anything about art or music or literature. And when she was in Stanford University, all these people were talking, MIT, Stanford, Harvard, they are talking about arts and literature and music and all kinds of other things. And she felt inadequate. She felt very small. And she started going to the liberal arts. You see, education, higher education, has gone haywire, especially in Malaysia, in developing countries where we just focus on the sciences. And we ignored liberal arts. We ignored history and literature and all other things. And therefore, we become very narrow people. And when we are narrow, then our students become very narrow. Our students become very narrow. So that is why it is so important to focus on multidisciplinarity, transdisciplinarity, and we move from literacy, the basic literacy of 3 R's, reading, writing, arithmetic, and morals. We move further. In America, they have a program, SFAA, Science for All Americans. By 2065, just like in the Star Trek movies, we expect the citizenry to be scientifically literate. I am myself struggling to ensure that every Malaysian is legally literate. Every Malaysian. That at Form 5 level, we can have a paper on law. And if we don't have a paper on law at Form 5 level, somewhere in our education throughout the country, we must master law. Just like education for all, science and technology for all, we must have law for all. You see, Tun Mahathir, medical doctor, he understands the organs of the human body and the arteries and the veins. So when he met people like Bill Gates and all the rest, he understood, and he became one of the leaders of the world who understood the possibility of making Malaysians IT literate. And we had the National IT Council. I was in that National IT Council, where we had all kinds of council. And our dream was for every Malaysian to be IT literate, for every home to have a computer. But those days, you know, the early days, you couldn't imagine what we have now, everything on the handphone, etc. And so Malaysia is still one of the leading nations of the world where most of our people are IT literate, because the leader could see what we must act today to ensure that our future is better for our next generation. So we are not all clever people. And we are not all ignorant people. We are in between, most of us. Now, therefore, we must stand on the shoulders of giants, learn from others, and do not have the attitude if some of the papers and ideas are from someone of a different race, from a different country, from a different religion, you want to reject them. You know, different race, different religion. Why should we listen to them? They are not in our community. When tragedy strikes individuals or families, and a person is on the operating table, do you want to refuse the blood transfusion because the blood comes from a person of another religion? Do you want to refuse the doctor who is a specialist in the field from dealing with you, helping you because the person is of a different race? There is a Malaysian ambassador, you know. When he was young, he had a heart problem. But there was a German girl who died. And her heart was donated. And this Malaysian ambassador has the heart of a German girl who is a Christian. And he has been living on that heart for the last 20 years. Do you want to hate people because they are of a different religion, of a different race? There will be politicians, there will be NGO leaders, there will be others who will build that culture of hate. But are people in the noble profession of education the hate mongers? Teachers, headmasters, principals, university lecturers? Are we going to propagate love and understanding and empathy, or are we propagating hate? So these are questions we have to ask ourselves. But to answer those questions, we have to rely on philosophers, not just religious people. Religious people are also making all kinds of mistakes because there are many kinds of religious people, the good ones as well as the bad ones. So we have to rely on scholars, on philosophers. Now I'm going to share with you, as we end this and we close the session, I'm going to share with you two frameworks. One is about leadership, and there are four things you can remember about the powers of leadership. The first is intention. Whatever we do, we must have the intention. In the Islamic tradition, it's about niyat, the intention. Whatever little thing you want to do, there must be intention. Second, there must be presence. The leader must be present. The leader cannot be absent. Intention and presence. I was the director of the National Institute of Management and Leadership. I have my house in KL, but I took the house in Genting because I want to be present. So when people pass by the house, they say, the director is there. Oh, today the director is not there. But there was presence. People, all the participants passed by the house in order to go to the lecture rooms. But presence, the law of presence, the leader must be present. And therefore there will be some leaders with their own plans who will want to be in the news every day, in some kind of news, because they want their presence to be known, to be felt. And two other things. One is compassion. Whatever you do, you must have compassion, love for other people, compassion, empathy. And finally on this, you must not develop intelligence, but go beyond intelligence. Go for wisdom. Seek wisdom. Not just intelligence and, all the ISI Scopus papers and all the rest. Most of the Scopus and ISI papers are about middling things, but not about wisdom. So that's one framework. The second framework, this is from Philip Crosby, who writes about the absolutes of leadership. First one, have clarity, clear agenda. What do you want? What do you want when you are 60 years old and retire? Look back. What have you done? How many papers have you presented? What's so important about the papers you have presented? Clear agenda of what you want to do in future and in life and for your country and for your family and for yourself. Clear agenda. Second, related to that is personal philosophy. You must have a personal philosophy and decide whether you're going to be the person who is going to hate other people and other religion, etc., and build a culture of hatred, or you're going to do just the opposite, build a culture of harmony and love and goodness and truth and justice. So, personal philosophy. And the third one, and this is so important, you must be worldly. Worldly in the sense that you must know what's happening in the world. You must know about the Rohingya migrants and tragedy, the tragedy in Yemen, and the unfolding problems in the Middle East, and who are the ones causing the problem. So you must understand the world. And finally, and this is very important, in life, you must have enduring relationships, friendship over the years. Keep the good friends, keep the good family members over the years, and don't allow the negative people to control your mind, manipulate you, and in so many ways derail you from what is good in your life from the straight path. So I would like again to congratulate everyone, and including the Master of Ceremony, for staying. Before I went off on the first day, I went to taste the food. And I have been checking and tasting the food and other things. And we should also thank the hotel because it's good. The food is good. The services are good, but in case there are always exceptions. In case something is not quite right, on behalf of the hotel and the management, sorry, you know. But otherwise, they have given the best of themselves. Now, your papers, put them together, and continue to, as I said earlier, the next level, and continue to keep the relationships over the years, and you will find that one of the joys of life is enduring friendship. So again, Dr. Sazali Yusof, Dr. Saad Abbas, and colleagues, and everyone here, thank you for your presence. We hope for your further support when we have other conferences, not just by Bainun or Misiam, but be on the path of increasing knowledge and contributing towards knowledge. God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yang Berbahagia, Datuk Dr. Ibrahim Ahmad Bajunit, for that meaningful and insightful closing speech and officiating the closing of IConFEd 2018. Ladies and gentlemen, please give Datuk another round of applause. Next is the memento presentation. For that, I would like to invite Dr. Sazali Yusof to present the memento to the Yang Berbahagia Datuk. Thank you very much, Dr. Sazali Yusof, for giving away the
just
memento.
one interruption. There's no closure. There's a closing ceremony, but life doesn't close.
Yeah.
Yeah, first. Okay. And remember, the closing is always a new beginning. Always have that. Yeah. So go out into the world and do new beginnings.
Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, with that, we have finally come to the end of our ceremony. And on behalf of the jointly organizers and the organizing committee, we would like to thank you for making this event a huge success. And we would like to apologize for any shortcomings throughout the program. And we will surely do our level best to improve in the coming ones. Before we adjourn, allow us to extend our hearty gratitude and appreciation to all of our distinguished guests, esteemed keynote speakers, special invitees, and of course to all of you, our local and foreign presenters and participants of IConFEd 2018. Last but not least, of course, million thanks and congratulations to the Secretariat and the Organizing Committee of IConFEd 2018 for their hard work and perseverance, without which the success of organizing this conference will not become a reality. And we believe on the slogan of IPGKTB Boleh. Thank you so much once again for your presence and participation. We wish everyone a safe journey back to your hometown. God willing, we will see everyone again in the coming conferences. And one more thing, everyone please stay back to have a photo session with Yang Berbahagia Datuk. With that note, thank you everyone, have a nice day, and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh.
Can we please invite all the international presenters up on stage for the photo session, and keynote speakers too. Please come. Yes. Okay. Some can stand behind. Yeah. Some can stand behind. Yes, yes, that's right. Okay. You might want to stand a bit to the front. Excuse me. Can you come behind for a while? Let me stand here. Yes. Front a bit. That'd be great. Yes. Okay. Good.